Michael.
Merci bien, je suis très content d'être ici. Incroyablement, à moi, c'était plus que 35 années que je suis venu ici à Paris pour la première fois comme étudiant. Et malheureusement, j'ai oublié tout mon français. En tout cas, je parle français comme un vache espagnol. Alors, je m'excuse, mais je vais parler aujourd'hui en anglais. As I said, I'm Michael Punke. I'm the Vice President for Global Public Policy for Amazon Web Services. Starting in 2006, Amazon, as AWS, began offering on-demand IT infrastructure services to businesses in the form of web services known as cloud computing. This model of IT eliminates the need for businesses to purchase their own IT infrastructure in advance of anticipated business needs. Our technology replaces upfront capital expenditures with low variable costs that scale with business demands. Now, organizations of any size can instantly spin up hundreds or thousands of servers in minutes to deliver results faster. The next day, if they don't need this capacity, they don't pay for it. AWS provides a highly secure, reliable, scalable, and low-cost infrastructure platform in the cloud that serves millions of active customers in 190 countries. Our global infrastructure has developed with our customers in mind, with data center locations in places like the US, Europe, Brazil, Japan, South Africa, and Australia, so our customers can leverage the AWS cloud from nearly anywhere in the world. We launched an AWS region here in France in 2017. Our customers range from startups to multinational companies, from primary schools and universities to government agencies, from community hospitals to global pharmaceutical companies. We've seen startups like Airbnb and Hulu disrupt long-standing industries. We've seen enterprises like Capital One and Qantas Airways transform their customer experiences and, as a result, their businesses. And we've seen companies use data and technology to drive a greater public good, from Pfizer improving patient care, to eWater providing agriculture in impoverished regions, to Thorn helping to combat human trafficking. We are proud of the tens of thousands of French customers leveraging AWS today, including Engie, Schneider Electric, L'Oréal, Airbus, Capgemini, SNCF, Radio France, and Veolia. We offer the same technology, infrastructure, and services to each one of our customers, whether an individual or a large-scale enterprise. This includes thousands of organizations across the public sector. We believe every customer should have access to the low-cost, highly scalable, transformative, and secure technology cloud services offers. Public sector organizations, government, education, and nonprofits face unique challenges to accomplish complex missions with the same type of demand on quality and efficiency as private sector institutions, but with far less resources. With cloud computing, governments around the world can serve citizens and protect taxpayer dollars while operating and driving efficiency like a private sector business. Particularly for some public sector organizations constrained by strict budget processes, the cost savings alone is transformational. According to a survey of AWS customers done by market intelligence provider International Data Corporation, on average, organizations will reduce data center hosting and infrastructure costs by 64.3% by moving to the cloud. That is an amazing and compelling number. In addition to cost savings in procuring IT, there are cost savings in the amount of energy customers need to power their IT, and of course, great benefits for the environment. A typical large-scale cloud provider achieves approximately 65% server utilization rates versus 15% on premises, which means that when companies move to the cloud, they typically provision fewer than 1/4 of the servers that they would on premises. In addition, a typical on-premises data center is 29% less efficient in its use of power compared to a typical large-scale cloud provider that uses world-class facility designs, cooling systems, and workload-optimized equipment. Adding these together, fewer servers plus more power-efficient servers, customers need only 16% of the power as opposed to their cloud premises infrastructure. This represents an 84% reduction in the amount of power required. Again, an amazing and compelling number. Beyond low cost and environmental benefits, the cloud is highly scalable and provides great flexibility to users. In a cloud computing environment, new IT resources are never more than a click away, which means you reduce the time it takes to make those resources available to developers from weeks to just minutes. This represents a dramatic increase in agility for the organization. Customers can also easily deploy applications in multiple regions around the world with just a few clicks. AWS takes the heavy lifting away from our customers so they have access to the most state-of-the-art technologies. We make easily available a rich set of services like artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, that public sector customers would otherwise not have the funds to obtain, utilize, or deploy. Let me give you one real-world example of what this means. Transport for London, TfL, London's transport authority, responsible for all forms of transport, including the tube, buses, roads, trams, river, cycling, walking, coaches, freight, taxis, and more, uses open data and a variety of cloud services through AWS to deliver new services for the 24 million journeys they provide to Londoners each day. I also want to address security. Public sector organizations are in possession of some of the most critical and sensitive types of data for citizens and for the state. Data security in today's digital world is a matter of the highest priority for governments to protect their citizens. It is the same for AWS. Security at AWS is the highest priority. AWS customers benefit from a data center and network architecture built to meet the requirements of the most security-sensitive organizations. As our CTO, Werner Vogels, often says, protecting our customers' data is the most important thing we do. Without that, we don't have a business. This sentiment and the safeguards we take to honor it are especially appealing to our public sector customers around the world who need the best security posture available. These benefits of cloud, low cost, scalability, security, and innovation make it an inclusive and democratizing technology. This is and should be appealing to public sector organizations and governments. Public sector entities, as I just explained, benefit from utilizing the cloud in the same way that private sector entities do. That is why in today's digital economy, public sector institutions have immense opportunity when they choose to embrace commercial cloud services. In our view, the opportunities commercial cloud services provide to public sector organizations are endless. I could give hundreds of examples of customer stories from across the public sector that would reinforce this. This is why I'd like to address the misperceptions I've heard recently about the ability of public sector organizations in France to capitalize fully on these opportunities as a result of the Cloud Act. Since its enactment in early 2018, the Cloud Act has created considerable controversy, particularly around the misconception that the law provides the U.S. government unfettered access to U.S. cloud service provider infrastructure and customer data. This is simply not true. The Cloud Act has also created the misperception that the U.S. cloud service providers are somehow less reliable to safeguard customer data. This is just plain false. I'd like to address directly some of the largest myths and misconceptions that have spread since the Cloud Act passed, and hopefully provide some clarity on the law. First, the Cloud Act does not represent a novel or new approach to the way U.S. or other countries' enforcement entities request or obtain evidence. The extraterritorial application of the Cloud Act has created a great deal of consternation since the law's passage last year. However, the idea that the Cloud Act has expanded the authority of U.S. law enforcement agencies, or that the Cloud Act is inconsistent with international norms, is wrong. Governments around the globe have long had the ability to obtain evidence located outside their jurisdiction. In fact, most countries require disclosure of data wherever it is stored. consistent with the Budapest Convention, with 63 ratifying members, many of which are European countries, including France, which ratified it in 2006. France is one of many companies, including the United Kingdom, Belgium, Spain, Ireland, Canada, and Australia, that have each asserted this authority over providers in their jurisdictions and required they produce data regardless of where it is held. More specifically, in France, French courts have long allowed authorities to obtain data outside of France so long as it is accessible from a computer in France. I'll add that nearly every country has entered into mutual legal assistance treaties with other countries that clarify the circumstances in which a law enforcement agency can seek data held in another country. France entered into an IMLAT with the United States in 1998, and the European Union entered with the United States in 2003. Second, the name Cloud Act is misleading and fails to communicate the true scope of the law. Many people fail to recognize that CLOUD in Cloud Act is actually an acronym that stands for Clarifying Lawful Overseas Use of Data. This has perpetuated a huge misconception and falsehood that the law applies only to U.S. cloud service providers. In reality, the law applies to a broad range of companies, U.S. and non-U.S., including telecommunications companies, such as traditional phone carriers and cell phone providers, social media platforms, email providers, as well as cloud service providers. The application of the law is not exclusive to American companies. Importantly, I want to emphasize that AWS believes that foreign governments, including sub-central governments, are not subject to the Cloud Act. Foreign governments enjoy the protection of a long-standing legal principle known as sovereign immunity, which is designed to shield one government from judicial action in another country. Under well-established legal precedent, we believe foreign governments have effective legal means to prevent disclosure of their data. In fact, U.S. courts have a demonstrated history of rejecting information requests leveled against foreign governments. Third, the Cloud Act does not provide U.S. law enforcement entities unfettered access to customer data. The Cloud Act does not grant law enforcement agencies access to service providers, nor does it give them the means to access customer data directly. Instead, the Cloud Act provides a mechanism that prevents law enforcement to go to a U.S. court to request data from a service provider in cases involving criminal acts such as terrorism, drug crimes, and child pornography. Law enforcement must meet the rigorous legal standards of obtaining a warrant issued by a U.S. court to make these requests. These legal standards include requiring an independent judge conclude that the law enforcement has reasonable grounds to request the information. The information requested is directly related to a crime, and the request is made clearly, accurately, and proportionately. The U.S. requirements to obtain data are among the highest standards in the world, and the requirement to obtain and produce a warrant serves as a major threshold and gatekeeping function. This rigor does not exist elsewhere, and even in some countries in the EU, where there is no requirement that an independent judge review a request or a requirement that evidence sought reasonably indicates a crime has been committed. These processes mean the Cloud Act is the opposite of unfettered access, and the process by which law enforcement must request this data is intended to serve as a means to prevent unfettered access. We recently did an in-depth review of law enforcement requests we've received since the passage of the Cloud Act, and I think the data helps provide some helpful context. In the last 12 months, despite having millions of customers in 190 countries and storing trillions of objects and exabytes of data, we have only received 25 total requests worldwide that sought customer content. In response to these requests, we've only produced content on 16 requests, but most of those responses were partial responses where we only provided a portion of the requested data, and none of the requests involved a public company or a public sector entity. I'm going to repeat that because it's important. We did not produce content for a single public company or any public sector entity. I'm not a mathematician, but if your enterprise does not involve terror, drug trafficking, or child pornography, you are statistically at much greater risk from shark attack than the Cloud Act. Lastly, the Cloud Act does not change how AWS serves and protects its customers. You may have heard that at Amazon we are customer obsessed, and this is no exaggeration. Security and privacy are no exception. AWS is vigilant about its customers' privacy and security, and we are committed to providing the most extensive set of security service features to all customers to help ensure they have complete control of their data, including the most sophisticated encryption tools. The Cloud Act does not change this. In fact, the Cloud Act specifically recognizes the right of cloud providers to challenge requests that conflict with another country's laws or national interests. If we have reason to believe that the request is not well-founded, for among other reasons because it is overbroad or too burdensome, could violate the laws or national interests of a foreign country, or does not meet the legal standards, we will decline and or challenge the request. Amazon has a successful history of challenging requests it believes are inconsistent with the law. One final substantive point. We heard yesterday the call by Minister Le Maire for negotiations between the U.S. and EU on the Cloud Act. We strongly agree. The Cloud Act provides an explicit mechanism for bilateral agreements to govern law enforcement access to data. Provides an explicit mechanism for bilateral agreements to govern law enforcement access to data. The U.S. and the EU should reach such an agreement as quickly as possible. At AWS, we've paid witness to the incredible stories of our customers changing the world through the use of commercial cloud services. Allowing misconceptions of the Cloud Act, fundamental misunderstandings, to prevent and hinder French customers from embracing cloud would be incredibly disappointing. We are proud of our French customers. We value the opportunity to be a part of their stories, and we hope to continue to support them as they bring powerful innovations, products, and services to France, Europe, and the rest of the world. Thank you.